Welcome back into Rover Sports. We're here on a Tuesday night. Many of you are watching the beautifully curated video offered by one Matthew Vito. And we have Tyler behind the glass, who is really hitting his mark and hitting his spots today. We're really appreciative for that. And we are going to, in our second segment, we have some Masters talk. One thing that just to do a little bit around the horn, Jordan Spieth, as many people think, is the All-American, literally blonde-haired child, All-American guy. He's the poster boy of the PGA Tour, along with Justin Thomas, who's his twin. And the fact that Spieth came out and had a nice clip, one of those, have those 10-second clips, and he was talking about mud balls at the Masters and how nobody's willing to talk about it. I really like that. I like the frankness of it. And Spence, I think you wanted to touch upon that a bit.
Yeah, I did, because I think that it's interesting that he kind of comes out and says that. I just think it's crazy how, these golfers, they are kind of hitting their peak in their mid-20s. Morikawa got red hot in the mid-20s, kind of comes up and surprises. Scheffler has a run. I'm not saying that these guys are going to fall off, but Charlie, you look at Thomas and Spieth. Do you think there's one more major between these guys? I mean, isn't it pretty wild now to look at Spieth?
Yeah, Spieth seems to be. I mean, Thomas, you see his name, once every 3 or 4 tournaments hanging around. But Spieth, I mean, it's like it's hard to believe. Has he won, three majors? It's really hard to believe that this guy won 3 majors.
It's interesting. Spieth has his thing where he tinkers. Some of these guys always tinker with their game. And when he was playing great, he was changing coaches, changing grips, changing his swing. And that doesn't always work. And I think Spieth is very confused. And I think the fact that he said that, he was complaining about mud balls. And I found it interesting in that he said, if you watch the way guys are navigating, there's low points on the course, especially in Amen Corner. And guys are navigating away from the low points where there's standing water in balls or, mud balls. And to say that at Augusta is like sacrilege, because you're not allowed to say anything bad about Augusta. If you remember the comment about bikini wax on the greens, that they're so fast, that's like a funny,
Who
but
said
the fact that
Miller,
was Gary,
right?
Was it Gary McCord, I think?
Oh, McCord from
Gary
NBC.
McCord said that, they're faster than bikini wax. Now, that's these days especially, they literally banned him for life. And so that's how sensitive Augusta is. And I don't know what, if any, repercussions they're going to, what blowback they could do. I don't think the PGA could fine Jordan Spieth for that. But I was shocked. That obviously was a soundbite that everybody heard.
The Masters, I actually like this decision. Angel Cabrera, got in real trouble. Some abuse, went to jail. The Masters invited him back because he won, and actually, I agree with that. I'm not saying that Angel Cabrera is an innocent guy in this situation, but it's almost like the Hall of Fame. I don't like completely removing somebody if they're not in prison. I kind of like the tradition of allowing somebody to come back. So I think Spieth will be able to.
And Rory actually was asked. And
this
again,
was the best thing he said.
This is the best thing he said. He said Angel Cabrera. He served his time. He obviously did something terrible with domestic abuse. He was in jail 30 months. But he came back and he left a note in Rory's locker. And that really meant a lot to him there. And Rory, and again, it took some courage for him to stand out, because it's easy to run away from people when they do bad things.
Absolutely.
And so that was one of the things I thought I did like, that, the frankness of it.
I have one more interesting tidbit before we move to football.
Yep.
Bruce, I don't know if you know this rule. I want you to try to pay attention to what I'm going to say to you.
As opposed to being
as opposed to looking at your phone.
You think I can look at my phone and still hear you at the same time?
I guess people are pretty good at multitasking nowadays.
These days, everybody has their phone.
If there was an odd number of players who made the cut, meaning that you go off in twosomes, but the last guy plays as one player. There's something at Augusta National called a marker, which means that they pick a member of Augusta that's a regular member, that's a very decent player, okay? And he's kind of like a vibes guy, meaning like he'll pump the player up, he'll play with you to get your rhythm so you're not going out alone.
Yep.
And he doesn't calculate his score. And sometimes these markers ironically beat the golfer.
Oh, really?
This marker is a guy named Michael McDermott, who is the Philadelphia Mid-Am
I'm
champion.
very well aware of him.
And
Yep.
guess what? Mike McDermott, he's a Marion member and a Pine Valley guy, and he got to play the Masters. Isn't that awesome?
So we know how he scored, or they don't even keep his score?
He played pretty well, but they don't even keep the score.
Well,
but isn't that an
Mike,
interesting tradition?
He's known as if there's an amateur Hall of Famer, Michael McDermott is that. I've actually met him, believe it or not, at a golf shop in Haverford. What's the name of that place?
The one with Charles Barkley?
I met Charles Barkley.
Champions or something, maybe?
No, it's his small family-owned place. But he's he also was I believe he also studied under Bride Quinn at BQ Academy. So I actually met him there. And, no, very nice guy, and that's cool. In Philadelphia, actually, is very cool that they're going to be hosting a tournament at Philly Cricket.
Yeah.
And the PGA is coming to Aronimink.
Charlie,
we have some close friends that are members.
Did you hear about Michael McDermott or the PGA coming to Philly Cricket?
That's very close.
May?
Charlie probably lives 10 minutes from there. Very close.
Yeah, it's 3 weeks, right? I think it's in 3 weeks.
Yeah, that could be fun. So we might have to do a Rover outing. But having said that, we are Rovers. We're going to immediately switch gears to some hot stove topics. The NFL draft is only 10 days away, and certain people are making headlines. Travis Hunter is making some headlines. And again, he played for a guy named Prime. And Prime was always known for being controversial. Travis Hunter said that if he gets drafted by a team that doesn't let him play both ways, he might just retire from the game. So I thought that splashed across the headlines. I'm listening to NFL radio. I'm driving around, and the people on NFL radio were speculating that his team, we talked about teams, he doesn't want to be drafted by the Cleveland Browns, and maybe not even want to be drafted by the New York Giants. He might be doing this just to throw a curveball so that he could fall in the draft to a team that he actually wants to play for. What is the motivation behind this, or is this just ego-driven? Spencer first. Go ahead.
A part of me respects it. I'm going to actually defend the guy because a lot of people, what are they concerned about? They're all concerned about money and how long that they can play the game of football. And Travis Hunter, he's not concerned about his second contract. He's not concerned about when he's 27 years old. He's going all out to play as much football as possible. He's doing the opposite of opting out. He's opting in to
the
everything.
opposite of load management.
The opposite of load management.
Yep.
It'll be extremely entertaining. And for a team, that is part of it, though, because injury risk is going to go up. So if you're making an investment into a draft pick, and unfortunately for him, he might sacrifice a couple of years at the end of his career, but I'd like to see it in his prime. I'd love to see like 7 unbelievable years from this player, but I can understand how it could be selfish if one of your coordinators is advising you.
So with Travis Hunter, I believe, from what I've heard of teams that want to draft him, they value him more as a cornerback. So his cornerback abilities, for teams that only want him to play one side of the ball, they want him to play corner and less so wide receiver. Now, he's a great wide receiver, but there's a lot of great wide receivers. As far as great shutdown corners, and Deion Sanders is one of them. So very interesting. Charlie, did that surprise you at all? So two-part question. Did that statement surprise you, and what is the motivation?
Absolutely, it surprised me. Number one, because the good wide receiver makes $40 million a year, and a good cornerback makes $20 million a year. So he should go in as a wide receiver for the sheer fact if you have the right guy advising him, unlike that idiot Sanders. Yep. He would actually be thinking clearly about his future, financial future, which, the difference is so significant that you should go in. There should be a no-brainer he should go in as a wide receiver. Again, he's getting bad advice from, a guy who was a great football player, but just is a bad guy. And if I hear one more story about his kid, the quarterback, I heard racist Ryan Clark today basically insulting Jackson Dart, saying what an insult it was to compare him to Sanders. Now, maybe I missed something, but Sanders played in one of the worst conferences in football as far as defense goes. Both of these quarterbacks are not going to the Hall of Fame. I wouldn't even consider drafting them in the top 10. I get it. Everyone wants a quarterback and wants to think they know who the next guy is. I got news for you. Those guys aren't it. So you got some general manager making millions of dollars a year. Let me give him a little advice. Pass on it, because all you're going to be doing is looking for another quarterback in 2 years.
That brings me to a point with Shedeur Sanders. Perfect segue. New York Giants apparently brought him in for live interviews. They're watching him carefully. Now, to me, this is posturing. They've already seen him. They already interviewed him. I don't think there's anything that I think they're doing this to throw a smokescreen up, because I think they're going to draft a quarterback, but not in the first round, not with number 3. I don't think there's value there. If Cam Ward is off the board at number 1, I don't think there's a value quarterback at number 3. Obviously, you follow the Giants. You've covered it very closely over the years. What are your thoughts? Why are they throwing the spotlight on Sanders? Is that a smokescreen?
Well, I differ about Cam Ward. I think that Cam Ward can be a very good player in the NFL.
So you differ from Charlie in that you diverge.
Or from Charlie or the panelists just about Cam Ward, but I do agree with him.
He'll be drafted by the Titans.
I agree with him
clear, right?
about this. I agree with Charlie about this class, though, because I think Cam Ward has arm strength that the others don't have. I think he has more pocket awareness. He's played 4 years, and he still had a great season at Miami, and he was consistent and he flashes. I think Dart is not fast enough. He's a little bit smaller, very, very confident. Shedeur himself is a decent kid, but his arm strength, Sanders' arm strength, really worries me at the next level if he can make those next level throws. But I disagree with you, Bruce. I don't think at all this is a smokescreen from the Giants.
You think they're actually really looking at him?
Because he went to Colorado. He did put up decent numbers. This is a weak QB class, but these are desperate guys. Joe Shane is a desperate general manager.
He is. He's
Brian
desperate.
Dable is desperate. If you get in a quarterback that's a rookie, you can then sell John Mara that you can develop this rookie quarterback. Because if you go into the season with an aging Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston who turns the ball over, the Giants, these two guys, Shane and Dable, are just trying to outlast or just trying to get another year.
That's very interesting. So if we look at certain players, like Milroe flashed, obviously the end of the year, he probably lost a lot of money. He didn't finish off very strong.
No.
But Milroe's got a very strong arm. I think he's a solid player. He's very mature, doesn't get in trouble.
Yeah.
He could run. He's powerful. Obviously, Charlie, you're a Bama fan. Well, break down Milroe for us, please.
I think he's had great flashes, like you said, as an NFL quarterback. Look, the difference in talent is just so great when you talk about even high-level college to the NFL. I mean, the windows are so small. They're throwing into windows that are not even half the size. Everybody's fast. Look, can he run? Could he be a quarterback you bring in to change pace? Absolutely. But put a franchise on his back? I mean, what? Did anybody watch the Michigan tape? Like, no, absolutely not.
I mean, Charlie, I just wonder, like, I'm trying to figure these developmental. I mean, I guess Jalen Hurts at Oklahoma was a lot more efficient as a passer, and like Brock Purdy still had his warts. Like, if you took Milroe like late in the second round, you have him sit. Is it possible to get a couple decent games out? Is it possible to maybe get a few seasons out of him if it all goes perfect?
If I was going to develop a quarterback, I'll stand on this all day, just like I did Joe Milton, who's now all of a sudden people are realizing has talent. I was screaming it years ago. Kyle McCord, I would draft him and I would develop him. I would keep him on the bench for 2 years. The kid has the acumen. He's got the arm. Again, he doesn't have a powerful arm, but he's got an accurate arm. And in the NFL, accuracy will kill power all day. I've screamed to the mountaintops about Milton. I said, somebody's going to develop this guy. Somebody please develop him. He's got the strongest arm I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And now Dallas sees it too. So they went, and I think what Vrabel was confirmed, he was so scared of this becoming a problem, this training camp, that he had to move him. He didn't have a choice.
Yeah, you don't want your back. That's exactly right. I don't like the backup to be too good. That's
so
exactly
here's a question.
Right.
I just saw something really interesting. I invite people to watch John Gruden, and he is incredibly funny. And I watched it with Riley Leonard, and Riley Leonard to me was one of the most entertaining people. And I went to the Orange Bowl. I had never heard Riley Leonard say a word. He was very impressive, especially in the second half. And he's bounced around, and he's so confident. And it's brilliant. It's like when you're with Gruden and he's just throwing terminology at you and he's really putting you under the gun. That's pressure. And, I mean, somewhat pressure. You can embarrass yourself very easily. Now, as far as Leonard, he's about 6'4". He's very slim. He's a little bit like Matt Ryan. He's not a bulky guy at all. Is there a role? Do you see him as a definite backup, or do you think Leonard could ever be a starter, Spence?
I
What do you
see
think?
him as a definite backup because I think he's going to be in the 5th or 6th round, and at times, you're either a truck or you're a trailer.
Yep.
And the truck drives the trailer. And unfortunately for Leonard this year, he was kind of the trailer where Notre Dame was kind of pulling Riley Leonard around. He had some moments, but again, like he like at Duke, he was an athlete, Bruce. He lifted that team up. And I just thought his arm strength at times looked weaker, and he looked like a flaw in that team. He really did. You went to the Penn State game, that passing game looked like a flaw. Now, he didn't have great weapons, but I really think, Bruce, that this quarterback class – I think
it's weak.
I think
it's a very weak
but
class.
I look at the difference
Charlie.
between I think at the top you have Cam Ward who's going to Tennessee. I think the New York Giants, though, I think they even valued Sanders over Cam Ward. I mean, their quarterback evaluation, they love Drake May. Their evaluation's very different from my evaluation.
Yep.
I think that Shedeur Sanders will be a first-round guy. Milroe could get bumped up because of the athletic ability. I think that his personality, he's just a great leader. He's a great person. I think that Mike Tomlin will fall in love with his running ability. I think that, just Milroe, he's going to crush interviews. I think he'll crush the interview
How about
process.
Will Howard? He obviously played for a great team.
Yeah.
Great supporting cast.
Actually,
big guy, a medium arm, not the best arm, but not the worst. But just a guy who I think could be a very functional, definitely a functional backup. Do you see anybody taking a chance on him
I
in a
actually
league
have
that's
heard-
devoid of good quarterbacks?
It's unbelievable how this quarterback class is getting pushed, though, because I think that if you get drafted in the 2nd round or the 3rd round, you're going to have a chance to really compete. If you're in the 4th, if you're a day 3 guy, you're a straight backup. Unfortunately, Charlie's guy McCord, I think just has a little bit of a weaker arm than maybe some of these prospects, but I'll tell you, the 3rd round guys like Quinn Ewers, Dylan Gabriel, even Tyler Shuck, I think the difference between Ewers and Sanders, a healthy Ewers, is not 2 rounds of difference. So I would clearly, if I were the Giants, I would take Abdul Carter from Penn State, who could be a massive talent, and then you take a Gabriel or a Ewers, and you take a shot in the 3rd round, and you try to land a Kirk Cousins. I think one of these 3rd round guys is going to pop, like Seth Hannigan from Memphis played a ton of football. Maybe Kyle McCord pops. I think that you take a couple shots late. I don't think you overpick a quarterback. I completely
think you're right.
agree.
And again, Sanders, when I see a guy who is just so beaten up in college, I think that affects the psyche. Even though he's a young guy, he's used to running. He's very twitchy. He's bailing out a lot. He had to. His offensive line was horrible. I think that affects him. And I also think, just like with the LeVar Balls and the Ball family, their dad was a detriment to those guys. Obviously, the second guy with the other Ball was a great player.
LiAngelo? No, not LiAngelo. The guy on the LaMelo.
Yeah, LaMelo's just a great
on
player.
The Hornets. Yeah,
but when you have the
still
when you have
hurt,
the
he's
Spectre,
still inconsistent.
But I think when you have Prime there, I think that doesn't help. That puts a lot of. I don't think that's a help to Shedeur Sanders as far as getting drafted by anybody.
I don't know, Charlie.
Charlie
I
agrees
think
with that
the guy.
%1,000,000%.
I think that the guy has. Listen, I think that he unfortunately has limited maybe NFL talent, but in a way though, having his dad there, I'm probably more pro Dion. I mean, I just think that it's helping him though in this process. I think that you're getting the star.
Does having Dion help or hurt Shedeur's draft? That's an open-ended question.
It's making him popular.
What do you think?
So.
Oh, got it. It helps. I mean, he's out there selling them every day. But also think about this: without these 2 guys, Deion Sanders is a nobody. No one even cares. His record stinks. Without these 2 players, he's a nobody. And wait till you see what happens this year. He's going to become a nobody really quick. These 2 are the only reason people are talking about Deion Sanders at all.
You're right, and I think he's going to bail.
That is a credit to Shedeur, meaning that's the reason he could be a first-round pick. And now, just because you're good in college doesn't mean you're great in the NFL. But I will give credit to Shedeur and Travis Hunter that they were able to make Colorado relevant even in Big 12 and Pac-12
but
play.
I think
and
that Prime isn't going to stay
Prime.
there.
It will be up to Prime to prove, see if he could prove Charlie wrong. And I mean, he had a decent record last year, but this will be so interesting. You will really see the coach of Prime now without the Heisman, Travis Hunter.
So, Charlie, I have a question. Obviously, the portal's going to be opening up very soon, and we'll see what happens in Colorado. Maybe they're able to just pile in a lot of great players, but maybe they won't. If the team is just average, they're not going to get the same coverage without Travis Hunter, without Shedeur Sanders. And knowing Prime, he likes the limelight. And I see that if it's a bland year, a mediocre year, I think he's gone, and he's probably going to the NFL. Spence, what do you think about that?
So there's a possibility, if the Giants don't take Shedeur Sanders, there's a possibility that then he could really fall in this draft, which will then allow the Giants or Cleveland. Cleveland could potentially go back into the first round and try to pair Sanders and Hunter together if the Giants pass on him, because you heard the Saints are not interested, the New York Jets are not interested in Sanders. So that's one tidbit. The other thing that I want to mention to you, Bruce, is that guy Nico Iamaleava who left Tennessee. The new buzz around Nico is that schools are fading. Schools are running from Nico, and that literally UCLA might be the only suitor, and he might not only have a limited selection of colleges. Tennessee was offering him $2.4 million. He might be losing money. He might sign with UCLA for $1 million. This could be the biggest, pie in the face.
Could be the worst thing.
Tulane is even out on Nico.
Is Nico? He's not draft eligible, right? He has to.
No, Charlie. What have you heard about Nico? Didn't you hear
this
Tulane?
is a story. What did you hear about him?
I heard the same thing. Yeah, UCLA, USC were the top two, and just because Lincoln Riley is so good at developing these kind of quarterbacks. Again, I just think at the end of the day, everything he stands for, I'm against. He's a poster boy now of what not to do, and I think it'd be great to send a message to all the other players now, because if you do this to him, maybe some of these other guys wake up and they say, you know what, I'm not going to risk it. And what he did was despicable. He obviously can't go back to the SEC because he'd be forced to sit out a year. So that's
he's out there, and
anyway.
that's one little bit of structure. The SEC at least has that little bit of structure where you can't just transfer. You can't poach a guy within the same conference.
Well, it's only in the spring though. In the winter, it's still open season though, Bruce.
You mean after the season, of course?
Yeah, in the winter season. So. I mean, Nico, I don't know if he would beg to go back to Tennessee at this point.
No way.
But USC, he needs to go to a program with a coach honestly, the Minnesota Golden Gophers. You look at PJ Fleck, they're the kings of going 8-4. You need to go to a place that needs a splash. Wisconsin and Luke Fickell needs magic. USC is trying with a new GM to build a new culture. You don't want to take that risk. But if you're Minnesota or Wisconsin, Bruce, that quarterback play has been abysmal. I think they should be taking risks on a Nico.
So another big splashy headline today is that the Miami Dolphins are shopping around Jalen Ramsey, who has 4 years left, not 72 years, but 4 years left at about $72 million, which in many ways locked into a contract which seemed like a lot of money at the time. He is 31 years old. He has a lot of wear on the tire and the tires, plural, as well. Spencer, is there a market for this guy? I mean, I see he's played a ton of football, and also I'm looking at the other side of things. Look at the Dolphins. They're much like the Giants. They have a limited shelf life. They're going to lose Waddle. They might lose Tyreek Hill.
Really?
So they might have if they let Ramsey go, that whole staff is going to get cleared out of there, including one of your favorite coaches. He's one of the craziest coaches. But do you see why are they doing that? They're just trying to clear up cap space? Well, Ramsey is also a controversial guy. He hated playing for Vic Fangio, who's a Super Bowl winning defensive coordinator. Yeah. So if he's going to be that picky, he might be picky in other places too. He might not be that easy. A lot to talk about.
Show diva-ish behavior in Jacksonville, Jalen Ramsey. And honestly, if Cooper Kupp, you see great players getting released all the time, including guys that were pretty loyal to their teams and weren't quitting. If Cooper Kupp, who's still a really good receiver, if he gets cut, 1,000,000% Jalen Ramsey is getting released. I don't believe you're getting any draft pick out of that.
Charlie, what do you think about Ramsey and the whole? Do you see any trade suitors? And would you trade for him? Obviously, you're taking $74 million. Still, it's still what it is for 4 years. A corner, he's not going to, when he's age 35 as a corner, or even 33, 34, I think that's why they're trying to unload him. And I think he's a malcontent. And that they're my thoughts. What do you think about this guy?
I also think he's overrated. He had a couple good years in the beginning, but what's he done the last couple of years? I remember his last year in Miami. He was toasted all over the field. Again, I'm not paying him that, especially like you say, an aging cornerback. Look, the only thing that's guaranteed is he's getting older and slower. So no, I'm again, that train has moved on. If you're a team, do you really want that distraction? Bringing in that kind of attitude and that kind of flair and all. And again, on someone that's actually he's not on the upside, he's on the downside.
One more point as we're reaching not the end, but close to the end. Rumors that Tanner McKee might be destined to go to Tennessee, as Derek Carr can't throw the ball at all.
The Saints.
I'm sorry, I misspoke. The Saints, New Orleans Saints, to reunite with Kellen Moore, and he knows a lot about McKee. McKee only played in one NFL game, but he's 6'6". He's a great kid. You know, you and I both spoke to him a lot. I mean, he's really an all-American kid, and he's got a tremendous arm. And Seth Joyner, who I respect a lot, believes that he is, in last year, the most accurate quarterback, certainly including Hurts and Pickens. And that was a pretty bold statement for Seth to say. And the question is, do the Eagles retain a backup quarterback, or if they could get a third-round pick, would you entertain trading him to the Saints, Spence?
So I'm wondering about this because the Eagles could probably keep Tanner McKee, let him go to free agency, and then he would sign somewhere for a good amount of money, and they'd get that cooperation pick back or something, or complimentary pick back.
Yep.
I think, too, like, Tanner McKee's going to be a backup, and if he really wants to go to New Orleans, like, you might want to do well by the player in this instance, especially if he's not going to be playing football at all. And if Jalen Hurts goes down, if your starter goes down, the season is pretty much on the brink anyway. I mean, look at Mahomes' backup quarterback. I can't name it. Look at, I think Baltimore has, like, either Trace McSorley as a backup, Josh Allen as Trubisky. Like, if the starter goes down, the season's over anyway. So I think a third is very good value for a guy who's only started 2 games in his NFL career.
Charlie, would you, if you were looking from the Eagles' standpoint, would you trade McKee for a third-rounder, giving him a chance to play with the coach he likes in a place where there's virtually no pressure for the Saints, no expectations? What do you think about that?
Do you know who the last backup quarterback to win a Super Bowl was?
Was it Foles? Who?
No, because Tom Brady.
Wow, that's very interesting.
Tom Brady on the Bucks?
No, Brady. Remember, Drew Bledsoe got hurt.
Oh well. It could have been or Jeff Hostetler, but yeah, it was Tom Brady.
Brady, Doug Williams was a backup, I think. Look, I think there's exceptions. Like, it's just, I was going to say, there's exceptions. You got Foles, you got Brady, you got Doug Williams, you got Hostetler. Most teams, when they're back, when like you said, Spence, when your quarterback is hurt, you're probably out of it anyway. I don't know enough about McKee. I trust Seth Joyner. Obviously, he's a very smart guy, and you guys seem to like McKee. I think you guys talked about McKee last year.
Yeah, we actually liked when he flashed a little bit. So I want to thank, firstly, this hour just flew by. I want to thank everybody. I want to thank Charlie, Spencer, Matt, Tyler. I want to thank Josh and Dr. Steve Lewis, who are on the road, both working hard. I want to thank all the fans. Thanks for logging on to Bruce Grossinger Facebook. Thanks for listening to Rover Sports. And as always, good night and good sports. My name is Dr. Bruce Grossinger. I'm reaching out to those who suffer from spine and joint pain. We use treatment methods that require no surgery, no scalpel, no drugs.
Running, walking, or whatever your desires are, Dr. Grossinger is where you need to come.
You can benefit from the same PRP and stem cell treatment as Wilbert Montgomery. Call us now at 610-222-5675. That's 610-222-5675.